Cole Bennett, the mastermind behind Lyrical Lemonade, has come through with the album to end all albums, the hip-hop album to end all hip-hop albums in 2024, with massive feature names such as Sheck Wes. No, in all seriousness, though, despite the fact there are a few names that feel like they should have been left behind and have been left behind in hip-hop, like 5 years ago, there are massive names coming together on this huge DJ Khaled-esque type album here. You've got friggin' Juice WRLD, he's got a feature on here. You've got Lil Yachty, you've got Jack Harlow, Dave, Eminem. Eminem's on this. I probably should have mentioned Eminem first. Amine, Lato, so many more coming together to create a kind of easy breezy, happy-go-lucky hip-hop album that is attempting to appeal to all listeners, really, with this one. You've got the lyrical, heavy-handed stuff. You've got the trap sort of pop fusions that are clearly trying to just appeal to your average young hip-hop listener. It's kind of cool that this is actually something that exists, to be honest with you. I feel like the idea of this album is certainly better than the actual execution of it, because honestly, this is just like the most obvious mediocre album to come out in 2024. Like, if you could just tell me what's the most mid hip-hop album out there, I think this would be an easy one to point to, honestly. So, specifically for this year, I think this is going to be that album that everyone goes back to and goes, do you remember that one that came out? It kind of just came and went. As reductive as those conversations are in the world of hip-hop, and they can be extreme in the world of hip-hop, I honestly can't think of an album it applies to most, honestly. So many of these tracks just feel like hot air that just blows past you and doesn't really stick anywhere, to be honest. Guitar in My Room, just really bland sounding, and then Kid Cudi comes in, and even his humming, wailing doesn't entertain me at all. I mean, Kid Cudi, even at his best, doesn't really entertain me, honestly, so it was probably never going to be a feature that was going to change my mind about the song. Say Your Grace, with that in the instrumental that just keeps repeating like every 3 seconds. It's just a really bad sample. I guess it would be probably a sample from something. Just isn't catchy or isn't nice on the ears at all. The drums in places sound a bit whacked out, honestly, and it's got probably the most phoned in Chief Keef verse I've heard in quite some time. The really unfunny Terry Crews line, the fact that every line he says he pauses like afterwards, and it's quite a long pause as well, just really not a good verse from Chief Keef. It comes across like someone that did not want to be there, and he just had to do it, and then just did whatever and then left. Like, it really comes across that way. And then the amount of tracks that are on the opposite end of the scale, where you've got new and up and comers, not, you know, artists that have been in the game for a long time, which is always funny to say about Chief Keef, because he's about my age, and yet, like, you know, this guy's been around for like what feels like 15 years or something. It's crazy. Anyway, you've got all these other features that are like from artists that are new to the game, had a lot of potential early on, Lil Tecca, Kid Laroi, and they've just completely squandered their potential. They've become really uninteresting, uninspired, bland artists that offer really very little to the world of pop or hip-hop, and they're just coming together, collaborating on tracks, and they just sound like really whatever. Like, there's just no hook to grab onto, there's no catchy singing or rapping, there's no interesting lines. Like, they're just really anonymous names in the world of hip-hop that they're bringing so little to the table. Hello There, I mean, that's got to be the worst track on this album, but again, you've got Lil Tracy, Corbin coming together, another bunch of names that may have demonstrated a little bit of potential early on, and you're just seeing why they never got to the heights they could have. Because why would you sign off on this? Like, why would you agree to this? I couldn't imagine recording this and then afterwards being like, yeah, put that out there, because this is going to be a stain on your name. Like, this is a terrible rendition of Blink-182's I Miss You. And by the way, if this is the first time you're hearing of this and you haven't listened to the album yet, yes, I am telling you the truth. They do a rendition of Blink-182's I Miss You. It is so atrocious. Just no beats hit at all on that track. And Black Cray is on it too. What the hell is Black Cray doing here? First night with Tizo touchdown with the me thing at the start. He cannot be serious. This guy's got to be trolling at this point, and it's working because a lot of people seem to love this guy, but I am really not understanding what he's bringing to the table. He's sounding like a mismatch of other artists at this point, and he's just doing badly at it as well. Really not good. Actually, towards the end of the track, once he gets out of it, the beat is pretty hard. I don't really like the lyrics though, where the chorus is basically about hitting it first time with a girl and stuff. It's just a bit cringe, but the beat is probably one of the biggest and hardest beats on the whole thing. I've got to say though, once I hit the track Fallout and With the Fish to an extent, I did have a bit of a light bulb moment with this album, because I realised what they're trying to go for here. This album sounds a lot like what the Spider-Verse soundtracks are trying to go for, and maybe that's something that they're clearly inspired by, but they're just not quite hitting the right beats across this album. Maybe it's through the fact that the features are just dead names that really aren't interesting or entertaining in the world of hip-hop or modern pop rap combinations. But yeah, I actually realized that that's what they're trying to do, isn't it? They're trying to make these easy breezy, happy-go-lucky, carefree, youthful, young-spirited tracks that are built for the summertime, are built for kids who are maybe in college or whatever, just having a nice time with their friends. And I think that's what they're trying to aim to do with this album, but I just don't think it gets the right message across at all, because the tracks just aren't very good to listen to. I mean, those Spider-Verse soundtracks really create that vibe so well, and the features across those albums are pretty good too. I mean, even the second Across the Spider-Verse, which I don't think was quite as good with the features or the soundtrack, but it still hit that tone really well, and I just think this album is missing. It's not all bad though, and honestly, as much as I'm tearing this album apart, which probably seems like it feels like, I do think that for the most part the tracks are pretty meh, and there are some good moments. The track with Eminem, honestly, is pretty cool. It's a shame that he got the part 2 rendition though, because it's a pretty short track, and I think he probably needed a more of a highlighted moment on the album, rather than it just being like a super short 2-minute interlude type track. I mean, it doesn't feel like an interlude, but the fact that it's part 2 and he doesn't get as long as the part 1, I think he probably needed a bit more. And honestly, the last track, which I can't believe I'm saying, but the Dave and Jack Harlow collaboration probably is the best track on this album. A rare moment where the last song on an album ends up being the best one. I don't know if I'm really on board with the lyrics. I actually think it comes across as a bit arrogant with some of the things that Jack is particularly saying, like, I've got way more money than you, I'm making way more money than you, why should I be taking advice from you, that kind of stuff. It's a bit cringe, some of his bars, but it's Jack Harlow, and if anyone out there thinks this guy is a lyrical, interesting rapper, you're on some good shit, I'll tell you that. Like, whatever you're on, I want to be on, because this guy isn't very good. He does sound slick and cool though. It's just his lines and his bars that are once again forever dragging his quality down. And Dave himself is pretty good too, but yeah, the instrumental, the chorus, this track just kind of has everything that the rest of the album is trying to do, but doesn't have the charisma or the personality to live up to it. And that's about as much as I can say. I probably talked about this album for way too long than I needed to. It probably needed to be a much shorter review considering the content we're getting here. But yeah, hopefully you've stuck around to hear what I've had to say. I think it's a pretty obvious 5 out of 10. It's the most mediocre, average sounding hip hop album you're gonna come across this year. It just is. There's just very little to latch onto. Like I say again, with like the easy breeziness that it's trying to go for doesn't quite work. It just falls flat because of the features. Yeah, it's just whatever. If you like it though, please let me know in the comments. If you agree with me, of course, let me know as well. Thank you for watching as always. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my Patreon if you want to request more videos in the future. Join onto my Discord server as well. Have a good day. Goodbye.